Coming up next, how to reinvent yourself and become more adaptable. We'll take your calls and your chats, and it all starts right now. I am coming to you live from Ramsey Studios in Nashville, and you are joining a conversation about who you are, what you were created to do, where you want to do it, and how you can get there. So excited to have you with us as we take on a very purposeful conversation. It's about your purpose, your why, and I can tell you that from a high level, your why is about others. You were created to contribute. And we're going to look at that contribution through the lens of work, working on purpose, reclaiming Monday mornings, making sure that you are on purpose in your life and in your work because it's such a huge part of our lives. And so our worldview of work here on the Ken Coleman Show is that you were created to work. You live to work, not as a workaholic, not as in you're going to take all of your identity and stuff it into the category of work. No. But to actually figure out what that contribution is and know that you can make that contribution through work. And we want to help you figure that out. So a couple ways to join the conversation. One is the phone number, 844-747-2577, 844-747-2577. And the other way is, I just opened up the chat room there, is to submit your questions via the chat room. We'll get to 2 or 3 of those questions each show. But first, so this idea of reinventing yourself, is it something that just a few people should do? Is it something that we should all do? The answer is we should all do it. But I want to just go over a couple of things that I think that will help you see the importance of reinventing yourself and then understanding that it's not as complex or difficult as you think. So first, let's look at why we should all reinvent ourselves. This idea of assessing ourselves on, I believe, a yearly basis at a minimum, of looking at the gaps. And it's a true self-assessment, a brand assessment, if you will. Okay, let's look at you as a personal brand, because you are a brand. But your personal brand, even though we're going to look at a heavy focus on professional, but just all across the board. And so there's 3 areas that I think you should do at least a yearly assessment on. Number 1 is your skill gaps. You look at the marketplace and how it's changing. Technology is changing the marketplace rapidly. And there's a real disconnect in some of the polling data that I've seen, where a large portion of Americans, I think it's over 50%, believe that technology is going to eventually lead to job loss for a lot of people, but only 80%. But 80% of Americans believe that their job won't be affected. So there's this acknowledgement that technology and progress is going to cause some negative shifts for people, but then not us. So there needs to be an awareness of how are things changing year by year, where are things moving, and I need to look at my skill gaps. So the assessing, okay, this is where I'm strong. This is some areas here where I need to be better. I've got the talent to do it, but I need to be better so that I remain valuable and make myself even more versatile. Versatility is huge in this economy and will continue to be so. So look at skill gaps. Secondly, look at connection gaps. If you look at your relationships, I'm not a fan of these networking events, but you think about your web of connections, your connections. How strong are your connections? How strong are they? How deep are they? How wide are they? That's what we're looking for. Assess those connection gaps. And then look at the personal gaps. This is relationship stuff. So we're going to look at skill gaps, connection gaps, and then relationship gaps. Where can I get better in my personal life and how I interact with my teammates, my leader, customers, family members, friends, acquaintances? Relationships are huge, and relationship health is the key to really winning across the board. If you're healthy in your relationships at home, it's a good chance you're going to be healthy in your relationships at the office. There's a lot of crossover there. So skill gaps, connection gaps, personal gaps. So this is the brand assessment. And then the second piece is then once we see where the gaps are, what we need to be focusing on is rebranding ourselves. So we address the gaps And once we address the gaps, then we make sure everybody knows, hey, this is where I'm growing. This is what I've added. I've added new skills here. And as you grow in your relationships, well, people are going to notice that. And you'll get the rewards of that. Whether they talk about you to others or not, but they start to say, man, this person's great. It's really likable. What a helpful guy. What a helpful gal. So that's going to happen. And then, of course, when we talk about the connection gap, you're getting aggressive and you're telling people, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is why I want to do it. It's where I want to go. And those people are going, oh, I can help here. They're aware of your vision. So that's that rebranding. You've got to spread the word. It's like a new marketing campaign about the new you. That's what we're getting at. And this is really, really important. So make sure that that brand assessment is happening on at least a yearly basis in those areas that we just outlined. And then once you begin to make those changes and you fill those gaps, you got to spread the word. You got to get the word out. It's like a marketing campaign on the new you. And all of that will really, really help you stay on the front edge and keep you versatile and very, very valuable. 844-747-2577 is the number. 844-747-2577. Let's go to Calvin, who's going to join us from Jacksonville, Florida. Calvin, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hey, Ken, how are you?
I'm living the dream, Calvin. What's up?
Hey, so I am kind of at a crossroads in my career. I'm in a job that pays really well. My wife and I are also investors in a family business. It's a restaurant business. We have about 15 locations around the Southeast. We're investors in that. And I would really love to transition into that business. My father-in-law is at retirement age, but he's not really interested in retiring at this point. And I've tried to make subtle comments and to move myself into a position to be able to work in that business, but not receiving a whole lot of feedback from him. My mother-in-law's positive on it and positive in her reactions to it, but my father-in-law is not looking forward to moving forward with me. Has he come?
So you've been subtle. Has he just ignored it, or has he actually made some comments?
Just ignored it.
Is it possible, and I think I know the answer, but I have to ask, is it possible that he's not picking up the hints?
No, it's been discussed, my interest in moving forward and being a part. That was a few years ago. The money that I make at my full-time job, I couldn't make that currently coming into the restaurant business, but my goal is more long-term and just not seeing a whole lot of movement.
Yeah. So it wasn't subtle at all. It was pretty clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a fair statement.
What's your wife think about this?
She would like for that to happen long term. Obviously, it's her dad, so she's very protective on that side.
Yeah.
But she's not extremely happy with the way the business has gone either. Yeah. I've got some ideas that I've put forward. I've brought in a lot of catering and things like that. But,
so are you working for the company part-time, or just as a family member, as an investor, you're making some suggestions and they're doing that?
Just as a family member and investor making suggestions.
How much do you own in the company?
It's varying amounts in the different restaurants. So anywhere from 25 to 33%. And
that's essentially your wife's stock, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And who's in line if he falls over today, dead? Who takes over?
There is no succession plan in place.
Oh, well, I didn't really ask you that. Who do you think takes over?
My mother-in-law.
Okay. And is there any other children besides your wife?
Yeah, there's my brother-in-law.
And is he in the business?
No, he's not.
I'm sorry, you broke up.
No, he is not.
Does he want to be?
No.
If they called him and said, we need you to do it, would he do it?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Well, he may.
Why do you think the father-in-law has essentially ignored you? If you sat down and talked to him about it and he didn't say anything?
He's he's not ready to retire. He's not ready to relinquish the reins.
So he said that to you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we've got a situation here. You're asking me what specifically? Now that I've got the full picture, what are you asking me?
There's no exit strategy in place, and I'm just wondering how, I guess, first of all, we as a family address that, and second, I've been reading the proximity principle.
Yep.
And I've got other friends in this business that I could, work with on a part-time basis to learn more about the restaurant business.
Go ahead.
But my wife thinks that would be, well, my wife thinks that would be kind of insulting to the family.
Do you think that they would take it as an insult?
I honestly don't know.
Okay. This is not a simple answer. What do you want to do? Do you want to be in the restaurant business, or do you want to be in the family restaurant business?
I would like to be in the family restaurant business. Like I said, we've had this for 40 years.
Yeah, I get it. What's your relationship like with, how would you rate your relationship on a 1 to 10 scale with the father-in-law?
On a personal level?
Yeah.
An 8.
Interesting.
9.
Okay. So here's the deal. The answer to your question is, how does the family do it? It's got to be a family thing, not a you thing. And even though you're in the family, you've already told father-in-law you want to be a part of the business, and the guy's not even giving you a glimmer of hope, because you got two separate issues. I get that he doesn't want to retire right now. It's why he doesn't want to have any conversation around it. He's just threatened by that whole thing. You don't want to think about him not being here anymore. I think that's a real problem. But I think the wife is the best person. The wife and your daughter, although he's going to start to go, well, the daughter's doing this because she wants her hubs involved. So there's a little bit of that going on. But he's just not open to the conversation about replacing himself. Forget, who actually replaces. He's not even close to that. But there needs to be a succession plan. And if mother-in-law is open to you being involved, that's your best chip. And I think you're going to have to tread lightly, because if he passes away today and the mother-in-law takes over and the mother-in-law knows your desire to do it, then I think that's fine. And I think you talk to the mother-in-law and go, hey, if I wanted to get some restaurant experience on the side, I've got some relationships, and I wanted to get that so that I could, again, prove to you all that I have got the skill set to come in and help the family run this thing, at least make my case. Do you think that would bother you and your husband? I get her point of view on it. She seems to be the right person to talk to. If she comes back and says it's a bad idea, then don't do it.
Okay.
But you have to stay out of this right now, and other than being a cheerleader for your wife, to then have your wife get your brother-in-law involved and mother-in-law involved, and they push the dad, your father-in-law, to come up with a succession plan. That's got to come from them. It can't be you. And I think you're going to have to bide your time right now. But I would go the restaurant experience route on the side, but I would check it with the mother-in-law. Do you think that's an option?
I do, yeah.
If it rubs her the wrong way, don't do it. It's not worth it. Because I think you've got what it takes to help run that thing anyway, don't you?
I absolutely do.
Yeah. So don't cause a problem that's unnecessary. This is not a battle line. You're just going to have to be patient, unfortunately. I wish I had a better answer, but again, it's got to come from the wife. Your mother-in-law's got to be the driving force on this. She's got to go, hey, if something happens to you, we don't have a plan, and I know I become the CEO, and I don't want to be the CEO. Is that true?
Yeah.
Well, then she's got to be the driving force. It's got to be her. So to the extent that you and your wife and your brother-in-law can encourage her to be pushing this issue without it looking like she's feeling like she's being manipulated or whatever, that's all you can do, and that's the best way to go about it. 844-747-2577. Anna in Savannah is on the line. Anna, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hey, Ken. I am wanting to transition from a well-paying government sector job to operate my mobile shave ice business that we started earlier this year. And my customers are begging me to be open more and have a more consistent location. But because of my full-time job, I'm unable to open consistently. And I feel comfortable paying for rent for a more permanent structure if I keep my government job. But I still won't be able to open more often. And so I'm just struggling with how do I make that transition from a secure job to something that is unknown.
Yeah, well, the first thing is you can't let your customers make your decision for you. So you've got to say, all right, I appreciate the customers. This is what we would call positive pressure, right? But we got to make the numbers work. What do you make in your government job?
$76,000 annually.
All right, $76K. And excuse me, I've got allergies, and there ain't any way around this, Joe. I got a cough. All right, so everybody relax. I'm COVID free. Sorry, coming right back to you, Anna. All right, I just muted the mic, Anna, so you didn't have to hear me cough in your ear. Aren't you grateful for that? All right. So, what do you make? What's your total net profit after expenses on this side hustle?
So after this year, we haven't generated a net profit yet because we invested heavily on the front end. We had to buy the mobile unit and all of the things. A lot of startup.
Okay.
This year.
All right. Well, give me your gross. Give me your gross revenues.
We've made $45,000 this year.
All right. So 45 in gross revenue. Next year, you're not going to have all those capital outlays, right?
And also, too, yes, sir. And next year I will be able to be open more if I quit, if I make the transition.
Yeah, but you can't quit. You know why you can't? Well, let me ask a couple other questions. Do you have any debt?
No, sir.
All right. And are you double income?
We are.
What's your husband make?
He makes $55,000 a year.
Okay. So you're the bigger breadwinner there. Okay, $55K. And you can't lose that revenue right now. You can't lose your income. Correct?
I can't.
Okay.
No, sir, I can't.
All right. So the answer is you can't go full time. So there's two answers to your question. You can't go full time until you're making close to 76. You personally paying yourself out of the company. Okay. So round numbers, you brought in gross 45K last year. You would have to double, maybe triple the revenue. I don't know what your operating costs are per month, but you just do the numbers. What does it cost for you to operate each month? All right, not paying you, just your operating costs. So you're going to have to grow that business to that point for you to be full time. Or you're going to have to get really serious in some other areas of your life, cut some expenses, change your lifestyle, save some money really aggressively, and then you could go part-time, on your job. But you're going to have to change your financial situation in order to be able to do this thing full-time. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Yes.
So but here's the other answer is, if your customers want more of you and you can afford the rent, you don't have to quit the government job. What you're going to have to then do is you're going to have to train somebody. You're going to have to hire somebody to be in the shop as long as you would be in there. So you are the CEO, you're the founder, and you train somebody to do what you would do if you weren't in the government job. That's the only other option. Is that doable? That you stay in your government job and via, you can check in once or twice a day or whatever, still do your job. And nights and weekends, you might be able to check in, but you train somebody to run the business. Is that doable?
I think it is. The only thing that I would worry about is if something happened, I wouldn't be able to go up to the store.
Well, you wouldn't need to because you've trained somebody to do what you do.
Okay.
Well, give me an example, just so I know that I'm not being cute. I don't want to be cute with that answer. Give me an example of something happening.
So, like if the ice shaver machine breaks or something like that.
Not a problem.
Like a repair.
You don't need to be there. You know why you don't need to be there? Because you have trained them to do what you would do in that situation, which is either A or B or both. You would take a look at it because you know the machine and you've kind of a novice amateur, expert on it, and you would mess with it yourself and fix it, or you would immediately call the repair person and the repair person comes out. Both of those things you can delegate to somebody else, yes or no?
Yes, you're right.
Isn't this freeing, Anna? Don't you feel freer all of a sudden? You don't have to be there. You can train somebody to do what you would do. And that means you can open up longer, which means you make more money, right?
Yes.
And the more money you make, the quicker you get to leave the government job, right?
Right.
All right, so make some sacrifices where you need to make sacrifices to save more money so that you can get at least 6 months of your current salary in that bank account of your company. And that, to me, would be the earliest you can go full-time.
Okay.
You understand? When you've got enough money in that bank account to pay you at least 6 months, and then with your full focus, if you walk away from the government job, you feel confident you don't have to worry about the next 6 months because it's spinning up enough revenue that you can pay yourself a salary out of it. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and to be honest with you,
that idea.
I know you do. And let me tell you something. You deciding to replace yourself right now, not as the owner, not as the founder, Anna, but as the chief worker, right? The manager. Right. You need to replace yourself as the manager. You're still the CEO. You're still the founder. But you need to replace yourself as the manager. That's how you get where you need to go. You make the customers happy, you make more money, and then you get to eventually step into it full time. So that's the path forward for you. And you have got to learn to trust people. And the only way you're going to trust people is by coming up with a real plan to train them on everything that you would do if you were in there as the manager. Now, once you train them on that and you know they're good people, high quality people, high integrity, high character, well, then you don't have to worry about anything. So that's all that's necessary. But this is going to take a good amount of trust, okay? But you got to trust yourself and how you've trained people, okay? And you got to trust your instincts and your research that you've hired high character people. There's nothing else to worry about. But if you don't hire a high character person, they're not going to do what they're told. If you hire a high character person or multiple people, maybe it's 2 part-time people equal 1 Anna in that manager role. Don't overthink this, folks. Replace yourself. You're not the only person that can do what you do. 844-747-2577. Remember, coming up, I want to talk about adaptability. We're seeing a lot of this popping up in my research and articles, that adaptability is really a high premium quality for people that want to get hired. Are you adaptable? Which basically means, how do you handle change? We're going to talk about that. I want to give you a little coaching lesson on how to increase your adaptability, which makes you very, very, very valuable in the marketplace. 844-747-2577. Let's go to Brian here. I'm a first-time published author working a full-time job other than social media. Is there a way to share my story in this shut-down society we live in? Oh, boy. This would be what I'd like to call an onion with multiple layers. Let's take the first-time thing. You're a first-time published author working a full-time job other than social media. Can I share my story? Yeah. So the way you're going to share your story beyond social media is you still are very, very connected. And I want you to think of your web of connections. I want you to take a stab at looking at your close personal connections. These are family and friends. All right, then we're going to go a layer out, and that would be acquaintances, your acquaintances. You don't do life with these folks. You wouldn't call them a close friend, but you'd say, I got a nice, friendly interaction with these people when I do see them. Okay, so that's the layer. And then I want you to think about that outside layer is the people that your close personal connections, friends and family, and your acquaintances know. So all the people they know. So the way you do this math, just to kind of fill out this illustration, is let's say that you know 200 people between the friends and family and the acquaintances. All right. Now, how many people do every one of those 200 know? It's presumable that maybe they each know 200 people. It doesn't matter, whatever the math is. that becomes the extended area of connections for you to share about your book. So you've got to reach out, phone calls, emails, to the extent that you can hang out in person. If you got to stand 6 feet away from each other, and if you got to wear a mask where you live, do that. But you're telling everybody, hey, I wrote this book. I'm willing to speak about it. I'm willing to give some copies away here. And you're looking for opportunities to get out and share about the book. You're looking for opportunities just to share the book. But that's how you're going to do this. The other thing is maybe create a podcast based on the book. Get that out there. Again, you're still in an area where you're called the shutdown society. We're not here in Tennessee, but even if you're shut down, beyond social media, it's what you're creating that you would share on social media. So maybe a podcast, start, looking to submit articles to magazines and newspapers, the free content essentially to get your stuff out there. That's what you've got to do. But I think the first illustration, honestly, is the most valuable. It's just telling people about the book. Tell them about it. Hey, you got anybody that has a challenge, a need that this book addresses? Here you go. Special friends and family deal. Or I'll give you a case just to get the book out there. That's what you got to do. Scott writes in, what is the difference between burnout and being overwhelmed? Well, the difference is that being overwhelmed is one of the causes of buildup on your heart, which causes the feelings of being burned out. And when I say feelings, I mean emotional and physical. I mean, there's no question that being overwhelmed can, over time, is that just stacks and stacks up on you, and it takes the joy out of your work. And it really becomes an emotional and physical toll of the stress level. You just think of a body that's under that much stress over a long period of time, it's not good for the body. You just imagine if you can equate the feeling of being overwhelmed with maybe a physical reaction. What in your life, Scott, what would be the analogy? For me, being overwhelmed, it feels like that I am trying to stay above water, like I'm out in the ocean, really choppy waves. I'm treading water, and the waves are so rough that I'm not just treading water. I'm trying to keep my head up, and it's this struggle, and I'm just struggling. I'm just going to keep my head above water, and I'm getting exhausted right now, Joe. My arms got exhausted doing all this nonsense. I mean, the amino acids were starting to fire. So that's really what I think the analogy is for me. So if you think about that, that's happening emotionally. You're in that, and physically you're there. Well, there's no question that's going to take a toll on you. So what you're feeling physically and emotionally, those are the symptoms. The source is that you're overwhelmed. You get out of the car and you feel like you're drowning. You're not even in the building yet. So what you have to do is we go, okay, so I've got to deal with the overwhelmed stuff. That's what I got to do. Once I deal with that, everything else as a byproduct will take care of itself. You still need to get healthy because of the damage that's been done. But the simple fact is you've got to focus on the source of being overwhelmed. And so is it poor management? Is it COVID and the economy has forced layoffs, and so you've had to pick up the slack, and so it's hopefully a temporary thing, and you just got to change your mindset so it'll help you with the emotional toll. This isn't forever. I'm grateful I got a job. So you begin to adjust. But what's the source of you being overwhelmed? What's the fix? Is there a fix? Who do I need to talk to about the fix? How do I help make the fix happen? Not just look at somebody and go, I'm overwhelmed. So that's what you do here. And this is, if you're a parent, I like to try to as adults, I like to bring our problems back to parenting. One of the things that helps me when I'm struggling is to think, how would I parent my kid through this? And then listen to my own advice. And so I think that's what you need to be doing. SC says, what's the line? Where is the line, rather? Where a job goes from frustrating to toxic? I think it's about the pattern. There are frustrating moments in everybody's job. We live in this human world where none of us are perfect. So that means there are going to be days where even the best of us are frustrated by something or someone. Okay? That's life. That happens. We got to be mature enough to handle that with somebody, having a bad day and they just didn't handle it the right way, but they acknowledge it. They feel bad about it. Everything's good. Whatever it is. But if what is frustrating you in the job has become a pattern, it's happening every day. And when it is addressed, it's still happening. It's not changing. That's toxic. So that's what you need. So is it an isolated situation? And I don't think this is. I think it's already gotten there. It's why you sent the thing in there. So that when it's a pattern and it's a part of the culture, what's driving the frustration, that's toxicity. 844-747-2577. Okay, I want to teach a little bit here on adaptability. So as I mentioned earlier in the show, this is on LinkedIn. I've seen it in several other places. One of the most sought after qualities for recruiters and hiring managers is adaptability. And the reason that is the case is because obviously adaptability has been put under a microscope during COVID when you had this global shutdown of the economy, and it really forced leaders into some really unique situations that maybe they'd never faced before. And then it affected followers as well. And so when you put leaders in a really tough situation, they're looking for adaptability because they're having to adapt. And so if leaders are having to adapt and they have people on their team that aren't adapting, it's a real rub. There's nothing worse for a leader when a change has been forced on them, okay? And even when a change is not forced, but it's chosen, and they've done a good job, hopefully, communicating the change and why the change and how the change, when people just refuse to change. Now, it's really a rub in that first scenario when change is forced, like COVID-19, okay? That's a forced change. And leaders are forced to make changes. They have to change. And the followers won't change. People won't change. I mean, you want to just shoot your brand in the foot quickly. That's it. So adaptability is huge in good times and in uncertain times and in bad times. Adaptability is huge. Makes you tremendously valuable to people. So some of you are going, Ken, I hate change. I mean, Ken, you don't understand. Somebody mentions change to me and I start to break out in a rash. Okay, I get it. Okay. I got one of those in my family. I got a kid that's just like that. Change it's traumatic. I get it. On some level, we all resist change. Some of us more open to change than others. Some of us really crave it and love it. Okay, I get it. But for all of you, when it comes to adaptability, you really got to score yourself and go, do I really consider myself adaptable? And this is really about mindset and emotion. How do you view having to change, and then how do you actually react to it? How do I view it? How do I react to it? This is how you kind of grade yourself on adaptability. And so now I want to give you just a couple little things that I think you can do if you feel like, you know what, if I'm honest, I'm not very adaptable. So really this is, again, about how I view change and how I react to change. So the way to become more adaptable is to force change on yourself. Oh, are you kidding me, Ken? Yeah. If you really struggle with change, the best way to deal with change is to put yourself in forced changes. So that could be in your nutrition, could be in your exercise, could be in branching out socially and putting yourself in some uncomfortable situation where you got to meet new people. Could be changing some of your buying habits. But find an area in your life where you're in a real comfort zone. That's what I'm looking for. All right? I mean real comfort. So I'm going to pick on Joe because Joe loves getting on the mic here. I'm not picking on you, Joe, but let's do this exercise with Joe. First of all, Joe, how would you grade yourself on being adaptable? The way you view change is what? What would you say your view of change is?
C+.
C+. I love your honesty. Okay, now let's look at the emotional reaction. So how do you this is how you view it, but then how do you react to it?
D minus.
D minus. Okay, this is great. So this is great. Joe, you're so great. I love that you're doing this. I did not prepare Joe for this.
Nope.
So the poor guy is just getting this, which, by the way, is how I prefer it. And I want you to have time to think about it. All right. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to share with us, if I was saying to you what I just said to everybody else, that Joe needs to practice change. You do. You need to force some change on you so that you get your C+ up and that D- up.
Yeah.
All right. So what's an area of your life that you're super comfortable? You got a routine, whether it's food, exercise, viewing habits, TV time. Give me something that you go, I really like this.
I really enjoyed cutting my grass with a riding lawnmower.
Okay.
And I've just had to downgrade, and I'm not happy about it because my yard's a little smaller.
Okay. So you've already forced this change on yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how's it going?
Well, it's going great. I hate it.
Okay. All right. And then what's another area? You just gave me so I want to know an area you haven't made a change in.
Oh, haven't made a change.
Yeah, I want to know an area of your life where you're super comfortable. You go, boy, this is my routine. Think about your routine. Don't make me go to Madison because she's standing by.
My cable channels, what I watch on TV.
Your shows.
Yes.
Okay, great. So one of the things that I would recommend Joe do is take a 3-week period and you change all of your viewing habits. You find new shows to watch. So I didn't say stop watching TV, although that's an option. You could say, I'm going to read a book or books when I normally watch TV, or I'm going to find all new shows. Now, what does that make you feel like? I see your face. I want you to tell people, what are you feeling when I suggest that change?
I'm not happy.
Yeah, right. But when you do that, guess what you might discover? Some books that you kind of always wanted to read, and now you've made time for it and you've read it, and maybe there's some growth there, or maybe it's just pure entertainment. Glad you did it. Or maybe you find some new shows that you would have never discovered if you didn't force yourself to change.
That's very true.
All right. Now, whether Joe does that or not, thank you, Joe. You're a great sport. Whether or not Joe does that, here's what happens for Joe. Joe, do you at least understand that by doing that, you start to get more okay with change?
Yeah, sure. I can see that.
All right. So again, this is a very practical exercise to where you are going to force yourself, and this is the key. This takes discipline to actually do this and really start to make some changes on purpose just so you go, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. But you do it. And so you are building up your change muscle. And so what happens is adaptability rises because you start to, as Joe said, he's a C+ on viewing change. If somebody comes at him with change, he's kind of like, but actually making the change, he's like, he's a D-. I know you love that sound effect.
Madison has a really good change story.
Oh, great. This is great.
Well, I was listening to you talk about this. I'm the case study for it. About a year ago, I thought to myself, I wonder what'll happen if I just walk an hour every single day after work. Lost 15 pounds in a month, and now I'm down 130 total. Just kept going.
Can we get the applause, Joe? Can we get the applause sounder for Madison? Because this is great. Because I wasn't going to, I don't want to share your personal story, but she's transformed herself.
Lost a whole person.
She lost a 7th grader? 8th grader? Wait a second. No, I was 145 when I graduated high school, so a small guy.
Well, you're just a little guy.
I'm a little guy. But I think that's really amazing. But let's stay here. So you decided to do this for your health, and you said, I'm going to make an incremental change.
Yeah. I had a wedding coming up and thought, don't feel my best. I'm just going to walk, not do anything crazy, not jumping in the deep end.
Okay.
Hour every single day.
How long did it take before you began to go, I'm okay with this hour every day?
About 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because you want to go home and watch Netflix.
Yeah, you do. You want to, or do what you normally did at that time of day.
Yeah.
And I've never even asked you this. What have been some of the positive benefits for you emotionally? Because I know physically, we all know when you lose 100 pounds or 50 pounds or 30 pounds, it's a massive deal. It's so much better for you. But what has been the emotional wins for you because of you losing that much weight?
Well, for starters, there's a sense of accomplishment that just gives you confidence in all areas of your life.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is I've learned to say self-discipline. So saying no to myself, being able to say, hey, no, do this instead. It sucks right now, but in the long run, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And it's going to pay off. And you'll never know what's going to happen until you try something.
Yeah.
And you've got to try it for 3 weeks to a month, like you said.
Yeah, you do.
And then you adapt.
Yeah, there's no question. What would you have graded yourself prior to losing all that weight? Just like I asked Joe and what I told the audience to do. So we'll walk you through it. So your view, when someone would present change, how would you view change prior to this?
Well, I still am not great at it.
Okay, so
but I would say I was definitely, prior to that, I was like an F. Like if you had said, hey, why don't you go walk for an hour? I'd be like, no. I'd rebel against you. I'd be like, no, heck no.
But you're more open to change now.
Right. I understand that it's a necessary evil now. But I am a bit like Joe too, where if the rug feels like it's pulled out from underneath me, but I know
and we all
now, after having to go through that big change, that sometimes it's just necessary.
Yeah, and so we all are. So great stuff from Joe and Madison. Golly, Nathan, that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. I hope you all enjoyed that because it's really, really good. It's their personal stories around change and adaptability. So here's the point. They put a bow on it for us. I don't need to add anything else out there. But I'm telling you that embracing change makes you more adaptable. And so that's the beautiful thing. That's the whole point. You'll see it come out in so many areas, and you're going to be so much more open to opportunities. And by the way, more opportunities will come to you. All right, Joseph, fun stuff. I hate that we got to go, but that music means I do. I want you to know that you matter. You do have what it takes. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, this is the Ken Coleman Show. Press on.